What do we need to know about the week July 27th through August 2nd? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot Astrology and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the channel on your social media platforms. It's all greatly appreciated. Huge, huge thank you. I am doing private readings for a little bit. So if you're interested in a private reading, you can email me at scryingoutloud3@gmail.com. Uh, the price structure is detailed in the post on the YouTube page and also on Blue Sky. I'm scrying out loud on Blue Sky, and the pinned comment explains the cost. But if you can't find that, you can just email me and I'll be happy to explain it to you. Again, the email address is scryingoutloud3@gmail.com. Um, the way I prefer to do it is most meetings are live over Zoom. There are a couple of people that have asked not to do it over Zoom because of connectivity issues and that stuff, and we can arrange things like that as needed, but live over Zoom is the way it's said. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the week 27th, July 27th through August 2nd. Also going to throw a card for each astrological sign, or two or three, or whatever feels right at the time. Because I do think this is a week where perhaps the collective is broken up into several groups. But the common themes for the collective that I was getting is it will be a week for a lot of us that's a week of nostalgia, a week of remembering our parents, especially the ones that have passed or the ones that we are out of touch with. Um, and those memories may be positive or negative depending upon your experiences. Now, it is kind of a re-grief period of time as well. I think this is the same true for if you've lost a child that's passed over, or a grandchild, or any young person that you were close to that died way too young. I think this is the week for remembering in these people. Not exactly sure why, but that's what I'm picking up in the energies. I think the big focus this week is on healing. Um, and so you might find yourself wanting to change your diet. You might find yourself wanting to walk or exercise more. You also might find yourself focusing on spiritual growth, whether that's praying, meditating, doing yoga, just taking time to sit quietly with yourself. And the spiritual growth is almost out of necessity. It's like everything's been so overwhelming that the need for relief is leading to this point. And so as we've talked through the month and the energies that are going to lead up to the big um, global shift later this year, uh, this week does provide the opportunity for a little bit of reprieve. I'm not saying it's not going to have its moments. I'm just going to say there's the opportunity if we want it for spiritual growth, but the spiritual growth I think is just going to happen because it's kind of out of necessity, and it's part of this focusing on healing and also brought about by some nostalgia. Now, with that being said, I am not a medical doctor. I want to first preface that with that. I'm not a medical doctor, not medical advice. I do think this week also some of the body tension that we've all been carrying around because we've all been on edge or on eggshells. I think there's a few days during the week where you might feel this tension release. And the way you'll know it's releasing is your body will ache. And the body aches because the tight muscles finally relax. And it's like all of a sudden they're back into the posture that they're supposed to be in. And so that can cause a lot of body aches. Now, if you think the body aches are severe, you should seek medical attention. But I do see this happening for quite a few people. Um, just wondering, yeah, I wonder why my, lower back hurts or why my legs hurt or my arms or fingers, for example. And it's really just a matter of wherever we hold our tension, particularly the upper back by the neck, the lower back by um, our tailbone area, the lumbar region. I think these are the most prevalent spots, but it could also be your thighs, for example, your calves and your feet and fingers, especially some of us have hold our tension in the fingers. So, um, now, while that might seem bad that our bodies hurt, it's actually a good sign. It feels like it's a reprieve, so that when our muscles tighten up again, that they've had a little bit of a break. So let's start out with a few oracle cards from the angels and ancestors on what we need to know for the collective, and then we'll move to the tarot, and then we'll throw some cards for each of the astrological signs. And you should check out your sun sign, your moon sign, Venus, if you're interested in romance, Jupiter, if you're interested in money, wherever these planets are placed in your chart. And there's lots of calculators that'll show you your birth chart. Certainly don't pay for it. There's tons of free ones. Um, and anything else, sometimes Saturn can be a problem. So uh, you might want to watch kind of all of those signs for you, whichever ones resonate most with you. Yeah, so the protection guardian, drop your shields. I think this is exactly what we're talking about. It's like we're going to take a reprieve. We're going to let our bodies take a rest. And we're going to trust the protection guardian to keep us safe. And so dropping our shields gives us this opportunity for these muscles to relax. It opens up some head space to allow us to focus on healing and spiritual growth. It allows us to relive some nostalgic moments that, give us a laugh or a smile, but also some nostalgic moments that our grief, that our sadness, but they're there to drive this spiritual growth, which is almost out of necessity. Like it feels like if we don't take the opportunity this week to start down this healing journey or healing focus, I'm going to call it, with our diet, our exercise, whatever it might be, um, and taking the time to be quiet, we might not learn this lesson again for a few months, and that could be quite exhausting. Uh, Autumn, release the old and rest. This goes right along with what I'm saying. It is a week if you have the time to take a nap in the afternoon, take a nap in the afternoon. If you have, the time to do so. Now, I realize a lot of us are busy and a lot of our days are full with work and other things and other obligations. But if you do have the time, taking a nap in the afternoon, just treating yourself to, 15, 30 minutes, an hour if you can afford it, I think will go a lot to helping this tension release. Now, the body aches are going to come whether you want them to or not. Not for everybody, but for a lot of us, they're just going to come. Uh, I think it also allows the brain to compute what it needs to do as far as focusing on healing. So if you have the ability to take time to take a nap, and I'm not saying do it all 7 days of the week. I mean, certainly if you can, there's nothing wrong with napping. Um, and or even if it's just setting out in outside I know a lot of us are just under this extreme heat in the northern hemisphere to where it's just unbearable outside, but uh, getting some vitamin D from the sun in a safe way, of course, uh, would also be a good thing to do. And then we get the shaman, and this is trust in higher forces. So just just trust your body knows what it needs this week. I think it's all about the body and the soul, but I think the body will guide the soul and the spirit. I think the body's kind of the driver this week, with the tension releasing and the body aches. And this makes us take the time out to rest. Like some of us are going to do it because we just need to. And that allows this nostalgic um, stuff to come up that needs to come up. And whether it's to come up to make us a little bit more lighthearted, it's certainly not going to be negative for everybody. But for some of us, there's been some nagging things that we need to maybe relive. And of course, Mercury's in retrograde, so rehashing things is just kind of a normal part of a Mercury retrograde. And this is all about, again, spiritual growth. And, the spiritual growth really is kind of out of necessity. Um, it would be just a good time to learn to rest, to meditate, whatever that means to you. You can be walking and meditating, just turning off the music, turning off the TV, being in the quiet. That kind of energy, I think, will go a long ways to accomplishing what we need to do. Okay, so what do we need to know for the collective? The collective for the week of July 27th through August 4th. What do we need to know? There's a collective. And then we'll pull cards for the astrological signs, and then we'll pull some animal oracle cards to end. All right, so what's the collective need to know? I see there's a huge focus on the body and health. Um, Not because we have health problems per se, it's just because it's like we're almost gearing up for a more stressful time. And that is why the body is saying, okay, we need to rest now. We need to give our muscles a break. So we're going to release some tension. We're going to have some body aches. Um, that's really where, because there's going to be some stressful weeks ahead. Listen to messages coming forward, um, especially around money and health. So, if you hear something twice, my grandmother always said, if you hear something twice from two different sources in a wildly unconnected way, then it's probably something you need to pay attention to. So, for example, if you hear somebody talking about insoles in their shoes, and then you're go out to lunch with some friends, and then one of them talks about how they got insoles for their shoes, maybe that's something you need to check out. Something along those lines. Now, it doesn't have to be insoles for shoes, but anything that you kind of hear twice, especially if it's health related or money related, um, I think is something we need to pay close attention to. We get the victory card. This week is calmer than most have been, and calmer than the next few will be. Now, don't misunderstand. By the time we get into like December, the weeks are way, way better. So it's not like we're going to be suffering forever, because that's not the case. So this might be the week where things actually feel really good. If they are, celebrate them. Just celebrate them. If you haven't been sleeping well and you find yourself sleeping well all of a sudden and you're wondering why, it's just a little energy shift. Um, Hopefully it lasts for a long time and we start sleeping better continuously. So for some of us, getting back into the habit of having, I don't think this applies to everybody, but for a few, getting back into the habit of having some chamomile tea or mugwort tea or um, catnip tea, passion flower tea, uh, getting back into those habits before bed, or um, if you've used that stuff in the past, I think start using it again, perhaps. Of course, again, not a doctor. Um, if you haven't used it, maybe try it. It might help relax, especially chamomile and catnip. Now, catnip tea is not the easiest to find. Uh, the Three of Cups, circles of support. Again, this card has come up the last several weeks. Checking in with our friends. We get to rely on our friends, but only if we let them rely on us. That's the way the universe works. Otherwise, the friendship becomes one-sided and it slowly fizzles out. So be there for your friends when they need an ear. And likewise, if you need somebody to talk to, the people that you are ears for can be ears for you. So I think there might be some kind of deep discussions that kind of come from this, and I think that's important. It's not going to happen over text message, by the way, or email. It's going to have to be a physical phone call or in person. Um, the Five of Cups in the environment around, the beginning of the week might be an overlap of last week. So if we're still in the sense of deep loss, it's okay. It's going to slowly fade through as the week goes on. Um, the sense of it's going to fade. The reality of it might not, because the reality might be that we are in a sense of deep loss. Um, and I think this is why, for some, remembering passed over loved ones, or for somebody specifically a passed over child, um, and remembering the funny stories. I think even for a couple people, it's passed over siblings, like the goofy things that you did that mom and dad never found out about in high school or middle school or whenever. Uh, I think those sharing those with somebody, I think might help. It might be a friend. It might actually be another sibling, or somebody that would be familiar with the stories. I think those can be good. This is finally a week where logic is going to be on our side. So, things are going to make a little bit more sense, or they're going to appear to make more sense. So, you know, um, we're still in a Mercury retrograde, so news might be distorted, things like that. But it almost feels like there's more of a logic to the week. Like the patterns are they start to become recognizable as old tropes, especially disturbing news stories. They just start to be becoming kind of like, well, what else is new? Not that we dismiss them, because we don't, but uh, things start to make sense. There's a little bit of clarity as we focus on this healing and on this spiritual growth. I think it's also a week where we need to set up guardrails. Now, the guardrail might be simply not watching the news. The guardrail might be, letting certain people in our lives that are toxic and giving them some space so that they're not around us for this week, and kind of see how that feels, and then decide later whether we need to extend that guardrail. Um, I think the guardrail also might be around work for some people. You're overworking because you're trying to distract yourself. And I think the body catches up with you and you need to rest. And you might realize that, there's someone in particular that's working way more than 60 hours a week that needs to rest. Um, Guardrails can take their forms in many places. It might be as simple as if you live in a house with children that are mostly adults or older teenagers, of giving yourself an hour to say, I'm going to go into my room, I'm going to close the door and just leave me alone. This might be as simple as that. Because it is a focus on ourselves type of week. The Seven of Cups. It's also a week to daydream. I think this is where this nostalgia thing is coming in. Um, but it doesn't have to just be nostalgic daydreaming. It can also be daydreaming in the sense of what does the long-term future look like? What would it look like to travel to Hawaii? What would it look like to take a cruise? Anything that kind of feels like a reprieve from the day-to-day reality. This is the week to do it because this is the week where our bodies need to release tension and healing needs to be the focus so that we can be prepared for the coming weeks. Um, yeah, this nostalgia about passed over parents and passed over children and passed over pets. Pets count as children in my book. Um, just remembering them with a smile, or if there's something that needs to be worked through, try to work through it. That's very easy for me to say and hard to do. And then we get the death card. So I do think there is something about this people being passed over that are going to pop up into our minds, maybe more than normal. I think for most of us, they pop up all the time, but maybe more than normal. So just be aware, it's nothing unusual. So I think the focus of the week is, watch out for messages around your health. Logic actually starts to make sense again. You can kind of rely on it to like predict what's going to happen tomorrow because we're going to recognize patterns. And you know, really taking some time to remember some past over loved ones, in particular the fun stories, not like in a grief way, but just like the goofy stories. It's like um I think those are the things that are there. Daydreaming, being nostalgic, it's all part of this. Again, the world's going to make sense from a logical perspective. We're going to be able to recognize patterns. And maybe sharing some of this nostalgia with our circle of friends is important. Yes, there's still a deep sense of loss in the environment around it. There just is. Now, what this means to you is individual. It could be geopolitical. It could be um, something more personal. Uh, Passed over parents and children, in particular, and pets, and putting up guardrails with the Nine of Wands so that we can get this victory card. And this victory card almost feels like successfully taking an hour-long nap. I don't know why, but that's what it feels like to me. Um, I think it's, or at least growing spiritually in some way. And yes, taking a nap can be spiritual growth. Um, Underneath, we have the Queen of Wands, you know, taking up the things that we're passionate about. And the Hermit card, which I think really is pretty apt for this week. We might not necessarily be physically alone or isolated, but we're going to be very nostalgic and we're going to be very introspective. And we're going to want to learn something this week. And for some of us, we're perfectly comfortable with this energy. For others, it's going to be kind of annoying. And for others, still, it might be even kind of a little bit painful. Um, the physical aspect of it is I do think there's going to be a lot of body aches. And this is just the muscles releasing tension. So it's nothing, I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. Okay. So let's pull some cards for uh, each of the astrological signs, and then we'll finish by pulling some animal oracle cards. I'm just gonna go in order here. So, okay, give us one, two, or three cards for Aries, please. What does Aries need to know? Again, I would go by your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, whatever you find is most relevant to you. And of course, if you're on the cusp of a sign, you might want to watch both of those too, or listen to both of those. Okay, Aries. Okay, rest. It's all about rest and recuperation. Listening for these messages as well, Aries. So resting, listening for messages to help guide you and try to help you move away from the anxiety that's been going on. Now, anxiety is not going to go away. It just doesn't. I think everybody's naturally anxious at certain points in their lives, and I don't think it's unhealthy. Now, it can be, and if it is, obviously seek some medical attention, but the anxiety that has been there, I think we might get a reprieve from it if we rest, we listen to our bodies. So I think that's the message for Aries: rest, listen to your body. That should help lessen some anxiety. Okay, what about Taurus? One more card for Taurus. Yeah, I think, take the time to be by yourself if you can. Be introspective, be nostalgic, be reflective. Um, Ask yourself how you want to grow spiritually, what you want to focus on for health, and then realize that with the Nine of Pentacles in the environment with you, with the Hermit card, you really do have everything. You really do have everything that you need to make that happen this week. So, yeah, I think it's a great week for you. First, okay, Gemini. What cards for Gemini? Cards for Gemini. Oh, okay. Ace of Wands, fieriness and newness. Um, if you got a new boss at work, it might seem overwhelming. I think it'll work out fine. If you're looking for a new job, this I know Mercury's in retrograde and a lot of astrologers will tell you don't do that, but you know, uh, I think this is a good time to look for a new job. I definitely wouldn't quit the one that you have while you're looking for one. If you're unemployed, this is going to work out well for you. I think you're going to find something. Or if you're retired and you're just looking for a little extra money, I think this also can work. But I think it comes with the double-edged sword of the devil card here. We've got to make sure that we understand that the new boss might come with some toxicity. The new job might come with some toxicity. The There might be some mis and disinformation about it, communication issues, partly because of Mercury, but it doesn't feel bad. Now, if you're struggling with an addiction, this would be a great week to try to get some help with that. I think that's true for a few people listening here. Um, I know that's hard to admit that you need help, but I do think that uh, this would be a good week to change those habits. Um, if you're overeating or undereating, also, I think these are good weeks to work on that as well. Okay, what about Cancer? What does the Cancerians need to know? Yeah, I think circles of support are super important this week, Cancer. Um, in playing, having fun, being around people if possible, but also being mindful that this is a week of rest, relaxation, healing, and spiritual growth. Now, those things can happen around the right people for you. Uh, you know, cancers are greatly potential of making super close friends that you can just sit on the couch, watch TV with, and take a nap, and no big deal. Um, So I think that's the message, friends and having fun. What about Leo? So we're in Leo season now. Do we need to know? Leo, just a couple cards. Yeah. Okay. So, Leo, I think, being consistent in your routine might help relieve some anxiety. So, if we're finding ourselves, on Monday getting up at 8 a.m. and on Tuesday getting up at 9:30, and then on Wednesday maybe sleeping all the way to noon and going to bed at 11 p.m. and then 1 a.m., this kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's probably causing a little bit of anxiety. And being in a more consistent routine around your sleep schedule, I think, is important. I think it brings more balance to your life. I think it makes you eat better just naturally. I don't think you even have to try. And I think it also connects you better with your circle of support because it's easier to know, when to make those phone calls. If your sleep schedule is erratic, your friends don't know when to contact you. It's pretty simple. Okay, Virgo. Okay, so listen for messages coming forward about money or health. This is the same, I think, as Aries. Um, and you know, take a break from being so hard on yourself, uh, Virgo. It's kind of like you're your own worst critic. This really feels like with the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles, it feels very much like there's some worry about financial issues, but I think if we really allow ourselves to heal, recover, recuperate, focus on spiritual growth, we'll realize perhaps that our financial situation isn't as dire as that we think. So, but it's going to take some introspection and some changes for some of you. Okay, what about Libra? Libra, what's Libra need to know? Just a couple cards. Definitely see your own card, the Justice card. Things are a little out of balance for you, Libra. Let's take these cards. So I think if we rest, the Four of Swords, if we rest, uh, that's when we come up with solutions to our problems and especially particularly financial problems. And we realize, that we kind of have everything that we really need. I do think there's the potential here for somebody to ask you for a loan or to offer you money as well. Now that's entirely up to you on what to do. I don't have an opinion on it one way or another, but just be aware that if you think somebody's contacting you because they want money, that's probably what's going on. Okay, Scorpio. Scorpio need to know. Scorpio. Scorpio need to know. Let's give these a shuffle. Scorpio need to know. I think if you have the chance to be around water as a water sign, I think this is a good opportunity this week. I think it'll help you relax. A couple of you, I think, are already planning on going to the lake this week. Um, yeah, so some seeds have been planted uh, on what to do this week, and I think they're right. If especially if it's going around the water, or maybe the plan is to stay in as well. I think that uh, leads to some victory and it removes some burdens, especially sticking to the plan, whatever the plan is this week. Just sticking to the plan will make the burdens a little bit less. So, Scorpio, I think that's the messages there. What about Sagittarius? Sagittarius. This, yeah, I just feel like there's something that's going on here that's just not really working for us anymore. I think it could be around diet. I don't know if maybe we're consuming too much caffeine or for some of you, I think it's too much caffeine. I think letting that go, and that can be very hard, by the way, cause lots of headaches. Also, walking away from people and television shows that make us feel anxious, I think is the message there. And the Seven of Swords, if you want to do it in a stealth way, like if there's somebody that's really not working out in your friend group per se, um, maybe just don't talk to them this week and then reevaluate, right? I don't think this is the week to make big decisions. Um, and the Lover's card, unlikely um, partnerships, I think, you might discover something new that brings you a little bit of happiness and reprieve and helps you relax. This could be just like for some of you, it's a specific daily meditation thing on YouTube. For others, it feels kind of like, I don't know if it's watching the birds in the bird bath, something like that. Um, Also just gives you some relief. What about Capricorn? What's Capricorn need to know this week? So we get the Four of Pentacles, which is about stability, and the Five of Wands. And we get the Tower. I don't think there's anything to be scared of. I think what it's saying is, if you can get, again, the focus is focusing on our health and spiritual growth. If we can make those things more stable, like if we can get into a routine in particular, especially around the times that we eat, then we'll stop being less hard on ourselves and there won't be this big blow up moment where we just really get angry at ourselves. I think this tower card's very internal. I don't think it's external at all. I think it's a battle of yourself. Okay, what about Aquarius? What's Aquarius need to know? Okay. Yeah, listen for messages coming from people you probably already know, wanting to get together, families, reunions, and celebrations too with the Ten of Cups. So King Cups, Four of Wands, Ten of Cups, great. It feels like it's a great week, Aquarius. There'll be time for playing. There'll also be time for rest, and there'll be time for family as well. So I like that for you. Okay, what about Pisces? You're supposed to take these cards. Again, I think, there's something that we need to walk away from. I think in this case, it's the news for you, Pisces. Walking away from the news because it's just causing you to feel this immense sense of loss. The world will be here next week, whether you know what's happening or not. It's okay to take a break or get your news from a different source. It's okay. The world will still be here. Okay, so let's throw some animal oracle cards and see if we can't tie this all together for everyone. It feels like a week of reprieve and learning and rest, releasing tension, focusing on our health and spiritual growth. Um, if we have the opportunity to be around friends, that circles of support card, the Three of Cups, I think is very important. Let's just take these, I think. Okay, it's time to collaborate. Collaboration doesn't require being with anybody. So the ant spirit, you can collaborate just by watching videos on YouTube on how to do this, how to do that. So if you're struggling with money and you're how to save money, put it into YouTube. It'll spit out a bunch of ideas for you. It could also mean to actually physically get with somebody to collaborate as well. Being loyal to what you love, the dog spirit. Sometimes, during these stressful times, we get away from the things that we really love. You know, I, I really love to read. That's something I love to do. Um, but it's been hard lately to read. It's been hard to concentrate. My eyes feel watery and itchy and I'll make up excuses as to why I'm not doing it because I just feel like not doing it because I'm not being loyal to it. So to me, this message for me means maybe pick up a good book. I mean, could mean anything to you, whatever it is that you love, be loyal to it. Freedom is yours. We do have free will. We have the freedom to choose to ignore people, events, the news. That doesn't mean that we don't re-engage with them. But maybe this week we just give ourselves this freedom to kind of take a vacation um, from all the stress and the coyote spirit. Trust the divine detours. There is a bigger plan, but it's not a straight line. You know, there's very few roads that are completely straight unless you're driving through the middle of the United States. In the plain states, some of them are really straight, but most roads aren't straight. And the same with the universe's plans. And then the koi fish spirit, there's always enough. We can always find a way to be resourceful. There's always enough. So, anyhow, well, I hope that was helpful. If so, leave me a comment. Let me know if it resonated. And thank you for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.